Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
This is breaking news from 17 News.
Good morning. It's October 2nd, 2020. Good to have you with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher, and we begin with breaking news from overnight. President Donald Trump has tested positive for the coronavirus. It happened after one of his top aides started feeling ill and tested positive.
President and the First Lady will quarantine, and now there's major concerns over what this means for the president, the country, and the campaign. Here's Tracy Potts to explain.
Maddie and Alex, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Let's start with what's most important, the president's health. The White House physician said overnight he's doing well, so is the First Lady, but they're now quarantined, and that's happening with just a few weeks to go until Election Day.
I just want to say that the end of the pandemic is in sight.
President Trump's final public appearance before announcing to the world via Twitter that he and First Lady Melania Trump have tested positive for COVID-19, adding, "We will begin our quarantine and recovery process immediately. We will get through this together."
If the president can get it, anyone can get it, and that's what's so disturbing.
The White House physician confirming that President and Mrs. Trump are feeling well and will quarantine at the White House. A senior administration official says he'll work from the White House residence. The news came shortly after we learned that Hope Hicks, one of the president's top aides, tested positive.
She has spent with the president throughout her time at the White House, not to mention in the past few days. So that will give you some sense of why the president is taking this so seriously.
Hicks was with the president at the debate in Cleveland Tuesday and in Minnesota Wednesday. That's when she began having symptoms, which means she could have been contagious earlier.
We spend a lot of time with Hope and others, so we'll see what happens.
Several White House officials, campaign staffers, and Trump family members have been in contact with Hicks in recent days. She was seen traveling on Air Force One without a mask.
This is a high-risk exposure in an enclosed environment. Everybody on that flight, 14 days quarantine, regardless of what your test shows.
Safety protocols are in place for White House staff. There's also concern about Democratic nominee Joe Biden, who stood 6 feet away from the president for an hour and a half at Tuesday's debate. The president of the United States now infected with coronavirus and unable to campaign in person for the next 2 weeks, with the election now just over a month away. The president was supposed to be in Orlando today. Of course, that's been canceled. That rally is canceled. And we are waiting to find out what, if any, impact this will have on the next two presidential debates. Can they happen? And if so, what might that look like? I'm Tracy Potts, 17 News.
Bakersfield Congressman and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy has tweeted well wishes to the president. Early this morning, McCarthy tweeted, "President Trump is a fighter through and through. Please join me in praying for a complete and speedy recovery for him and our First Lady."
And we've just learned former Vice President and Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden will be tested for coronavirus later this morning.
What this means going forward, I mean, we have the vice presidential debate next week. There is another presidential debate scheduled for October 15th. Technically, the president could recover and test negative before then. There's a minimum of 10 days he has to isolate. So he could test negative right before. Or could we see a virtual debate? It really all remains to be seen.
But again, we are 32 days away from Election Day, so it's going to be very interesting. Now for an update on the coronavirus pandemic here in Kern County. 56 new cases and 1 new death were reported by public health officials yesterday. More than 32,000 people in Kern County have been infected with coronavirus so far. More than 10,000 people are currently recovering from the virus at home. 78 others who are suffering more acute symptoms are in the hospital and receiving treatment. We've lost 371 lives to coronavirus since the beginning of the pandemic back in March here in Kern County. And we now know more about the 371 local people who have died from this virus. Before yesterday, we only knew of 371 lives lost. Now we know that 2 of the 3 people who have died from this virus were 65 and older. 44 deaths were between the ages of 18 and 49. 80 were between 50 and 64. Also, we know that more men died than women, even though more women have tested positive. If you would like to take a closer look at the new demographics, just head to our website, kget.com.
Kern County remains in the purple tier, the most restrictive tier, but there's some new hope of moving up, meaning fewer restrictions for businesses and places of worship. County Administrative Officer Ryan Alsop says we've been meeting requirements to be in the red tier. That's the third of the 4 tiers. Since Wednesday, moving into the red tier would allow restaurants, gyms, places of worship, and schools to open up for indoor activity. Health officials say the best way to help the county open is to get tested. And to that end, there are 9 places throughout Kern County you can go for a free test. You can schedule ahead of time by calling 211 or go to kerncounty.com. You can also make an account on the website doineedacovid19test.com to find a test site and schedule your appointment. You'll also use that site to check your results from previous tests. And health experts continue to urge people to get a flu shot as soon as possible in order to help ease the strain on the healthcare system already embattled by the coronavirus. To help, Kaiser Permanente is offering free flu shots tomorrow at a drive-through event from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Kane Memorial AME Church on California Avenue. You do not need to be a Kaiser member to get that flu shot, but there are a limited number and only the first 300 people to show up will be vaccinated.
Well, it is officially the first weekend of October and officially fall season is here, although it doesn't feel like fall quite yet. But a lot of people getting in the spirit of this spooky season, as they call it.
You can pretend and get in the spirit as well. Murray Family Farms is opening up its pumpkin patch this weekend. 17's Taylor Schaub's joining us live at the iconic farm with a look at how your family can keep this fall tradition alive, even in these ever-changing times. Taylor?
Good morning, Maddie. Good morning, Alex. Yeah, so many of our events this year have had to adapt, have had to change because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But one fall favorite is the pumpkin patch, and it's coming back to Kern County this year here at Murray Family Farms. This year, instead of being called October Fun Fest, it's called a farm experience. And joining me right now is owner Steve Murray. Steve, thank you so much for joining us this morning as you come on in here. Why was it so important to keep this tradition alive?
Well, I think that for most families, the farm is just the best time of year, and there's tradition and there's nostalgia. There's just everything has been shut down, and we looked at this closely, and we saw that first off that we are an essential business, and we have come in and set it up in a way to where people can come out here and keep the social distancing, keep their masks on, they're outside, and be able to still have the family experience where you go out and get your pumpkin, go through the corn maze. This year we have a screaming sunflower maze, and that it's going to be an opportunity now to come out and walk around and stretch your legs out and connect back with the food that you eat and have a family experience.
You mentioned to me off camera that you've worked closely with the public health department to make some changes to this year's event and make sure that everybody stays safe. What is going to be closed this year?
Well, literally, if you look at what the governor has asked and what the counties are asking, is that we maintain social distancing, that we maintain face masks, and eliminate anything where there's going to be crowds gathering together in a tight cluster and people touching the same things. And so, unfortunately, if you look at social media, some of the most popular things we do are the bounce pillow, the wagon rides, the going in and petting the animals. Those things, we just can't do it this year because we just cannot keep it safe.
All right, Steve, thank you so much. And of course, if you want to come this year, you have to make a reservation online for the weekends. That's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You pick a time, but once you get here with your reservation, you can stay all day and have a blast. All right, I'm going to send it back to you, Maddie and Alex.
One of my kids' favorite things to do every October is go to Murray Family Farms, and we drive past it every day. And yesterday I saw them getting that pumpkin patch ready with like a human conveyor belt of people passing pumpkins after another to each other. So they're ready for you if you want to head on out this weekend. Welcome back. Your time is 5:13, and we have an update on the wildfires burning up and down our state. Firefighters in wine country are in an uphill battle to save homes there. Hundreds have been lost, and high winds are threatening to make it worse. In some communities where the wildfire's already blown through and is no longer a threat, neighbors have been allowed back in to see what's left of their homes. And the Creek Fire east of Fresno has grown to more than 309,000 acres as of this morning. Containment remains at 44%. And the SQF complex fire east of Porterville has now burned more than 153,000 acres. Containment on that fire has stalled as well. It is still at 61%. That fire is primarily responsible for the smoke being pumped into Kern's mountain communities over the past few weeks. In total, throughout the state, more than 4 million acres have been burned as a result of all the fires. 30 people have been killed and more than 7,500 structures have been destroyed. All right, so let's talk about what that is bringing into Kern County. Mainly the smoke, and we have seen more of that over these last few days. What's our weekend looking like, Alyssa?
Hi, Maddie. We're looking again for more smoke. So even though you may necessarily not smell it or see it at times, it's out there and it is thicker than it has been over the last day or two. So it continues to grow and the winds are a little bit weaker. And so that is hopefully going to slow down that smoke travel into the valley. We are still going to be dealing with smoke, I'm afraid, into next week. Still looking at that smoky haze and 6-mile visibility right now here in Bakersfield, 5-mile in Fresno, only 4-mile visibility in Sacramento, 5-mile in San Francisco. So if the winds shift again out of the north and west, we're still going to see more smoke working in down to the edge of the valley here, unfortunately. Air quality today very close to the red, unhealthy for sensitive groups at 150, and we're at 71 in Bakersfield. 60 though in the outlying areas in Shafter, 57 in Lake Isabella, only 48 in Tehachapi, 55 in Fraser Park, 63 in Ridgecrest. With that 71-degree temperature, our winds are calm, and that inversion layer will continue to keep the smoke around as we head into the next couple of days, acting like a lid almost. We're also watching here as high pressure overhead will continue. So cooler air is expected to arrive now by Monday, but it's not looking quite as cool here for the weekend at this point, I'm afraid. Temperatures today are going to be around 97 degrees, and then looking at 97 in McFarland, 98 in Shafter, 98 in Buttonwillow. Still feeling very summer-like in this first weekend of October. 88 in Tehachapi, 95 in Kernville, 88 in Fraser Park, 81 in Pine Mountain Club. As we take a look at your desert forecast, close to 100 in Ridgecrest. And continuing here to be hot into the weekend. And the maps just keep skipping ahead on me here today. Looking here at temperatures around 97 today, mid-90s for Saturday, and then next week, hopefully mid-80s by Wednesday and Thursday with some clouds and maybe a little bit of a break here in the heat. In the mountains, 88 and hazy today, mid-80s for the weekend, lower 80s into next week, and in the Kern River Valley, upper 90s, lower 90s by next week. So it's still going to be a hot weekend ahead, and of course a hot day today. So make the most of it. If you like the heat, maybe you want to get one last swim in the pool before the water gets too cold. Maddie, Alex.
Looking on the bright side. Thanks, Alyssa.
We've still got a few weeks to go until Halloween, but county officials are already looking ahead to Christmas. The Kern County Department of Human Services opened its annual holiday cottage to gather donations that will help buy Christmas gifts for children in foster care. You're taking a look at video from a previous event. The cottage is virtual this year because of the pandemic. So here's how it works. Instead of picking out the gifts yourself, you donate money to the organization from now until November 20th, and then the staff will buy gifts for the kids. At the end of December, they'll publish a list of all the items purchased. The department says donations in any amount are accepted, but $50 will grant one foster child's holiday wish. You can find more information on our website, kget.com.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.